enter in my room, no trace left here of you. Cold call another person or two, seems like I'm the only one home. Aligned with the sun, shadows on everyone, no reason to run, hide out inside. Just stay at home, so lost and alone. Be here, unknown, don't tell a soul. Bad taste, can't seem to get it out. Blank space where you shut my mouth. Filled yours with love to spit it out. I thought we wanted the same thing. Trust me, it's alright. Goodbye. Now let me try to sleep, but don't care to say goodnight. It would be a lie. Another fleeting dream. Trust me, it's alright. Goodbye. You never meant anything. You mean nothing to me. Just stay at home, so lost and alone. Be here, unknown, don't tell a soul. Been so down since you left, can't get out of this hole. Stay safe at home, so lost and alone.
Hiya, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Touchline Talk. In today's exciting episode, I've got my tactics board. Yeah. What we are going to do is do what we did a few months ago before the January transfer window. We are going to go through the team, the current squad, of Manchester City. We are going to try to establish once and for all which positions are the ultimate priorities, what positions are needed, comparing it to a past squad, and then I think trying to conclude and having a look at, again, if you tuned into LNobbins yesterday, where are our stars, our diamonds, where are the squad players, where are the players who are almost certainly going to go or, be binned off, whatever term you want to say. As you are coming into the stream, please make sure to leave a like on the video. It is free and it does really help. The more you like, the more people see my content, the more I am a happy boy. Hello Mars, who says 100 million euros for Messi, who says no. Hello Payload Geek, all the way from Zimbabwe. Big up to you, mate. I do have one of my friends is from Zimbabwe, so big up. Yusuf says hey. Hello Bengal. Hello. Is that Jerry real? It says halve out. Maybe not. Is my Echeverry analysis video real? Well, maybe not either. It will be uploaded. I'm just hopefully waiting for Echeverry to actually, feature and show his face so that there can be a bit more hype for it. But there we go. It's a thing. And again, there will be a haste one. But as Pep is not in an urgent rush to start them consistently, nor am I in a rush to get those videos out. But they will be coming at some point. Okay, let me explain. There's a lot of names on the screen right now. We have done this exercise before, but again, it was a few months ago, before we actually signed Kusanov, Marmoush, Hayes, etc., etc. So I feel like it's apt to revisit it and to establish, because again, the landscape has changed. Back then, I would have said, well, we needed a centre-back, probably. We've obviously brought in, at least 2 centre-backs. You could even argue 3, depending on what happened with Bar. Here is what's on the screen. The far left side here is, so these players over here, yeah? These are our current players, obviously, and they are also players who, in general, we would say are going to be, starters for City. We'll get into players who may or may not leave. The players here, in this area, down here, are players who are on the chopping block, if you will. On the chopping block. I.e., they are either definitely leaving, a la Kevin De Bruyne, or they are players who we think have got 0 chance of ever making it at City. Calvin Phillips. They are players who we need to absolutely move on. Walker, Grealish, De Bruyne is moving on. Or they are players who there is a big question mark as to whether we want to keep them. I.e. Bernardo, Gundo, maybe even Nunes and Kovacic. I'm not saying that these guys are definitely going to leave. What I'm saying is that there is an argument to be made for all of these players down here. There's no argument to be made here unless the players want to leave, you know, like Edison Ortega, for example. We'll get into the goalkeepers in a moment. The players up here are players who are either out on loan. I haven't included every single loan player because there are a lot. There are a lot more players out on loan than I thought, players who I never even heard of. So I haven't included all of them. I've just included some of the main names. So, you know, like Doyle, Couto, Peroni, Barr. And I've also included young players here who are either might go out on loan next season, like, you know, people are talking about Echeverri maybe going out on loan, or players who might make it into the first team, Casa, or young players who may just end up being sold. So that's what we have on the left screen. We'll get into the star squad sell needs to buy option later. Let's first establish the landscape though. How are we going to do that? Again, we have the new signings on the right here. You'll notice I've not named them. I'm trying to be as generic as possible because the purpose of this stream, and we can get into it maybe, the purpose of this stream isn't to, you know, say we need to sign the specific player. That's not really the purpose. Again, we can touch on that. The main idea is to, as I said, just set a foundation and a Juma bar of what do City actually need to do before we actually touch on the names. What I have here in the reds is, in my view, the greatest squad in Premier League history. Let me know if you guys disagree or not. This is Manchester City's 18-19 squad. And for me, this is the best squad that has ever existed in Premier League football. There are no weaknesses here in respect of this squad. Well, bravo. But, you know, he's a second choice goalkeeper, so that doesn't count. There is no real weakness here. The right-back options are Kyle Walker, when he was in his prime, and Danilo as a backup. The centre-backs, we've got Company, Stones, Otamendi, Laporte. That is ridiculous depth at centre-back. Left-back, okay, maybe that's the weakness, but you know, Mendy was injured. Still, Zinchenko did some bits that season, as did Laporte. Fernandinho, enough said. We've then got the more central options of Bernardo, Gundo, Delph. We've got the technically more attacking options of De Bruyne, Silva, and an 18-year-old or 19-year-old Phil Foden. We've then got the wide players, the exclusive wide players in Sane, Sterling, Mahrez, and we've got the forwards in Jesus, Aguero. It's a good question, Bengal. How would I weigh it up against the treble season? I still believe that this is the best collection of players that City have ever had. Treble winning players, obviously, they technically achieved more because they won the Champions League. This team was also... I don't like to talk about refereeing decisions. This team was fucking robbed of the Champions League that season. That was a handball by fucking Llorente, and it was a load of bullshit in that Spurs matchup. That pissed me off, right? That's an aside, though. This team could have very well won the Champions League. You know, Liverpool won it that season. We were better than Liverpool that season. We would have beaten Ajax in the semi-finals. We just would have done. We would have beaten Liverpool in the final. We actually just got robbed against Spurs in that quarter-final, and that really pissed me off. And this is a bit of an aside. Can someone please confirm something for me? Was that the season where VAR wasn't actually introduced at the start of the season, but it was introduced by the time of the knockouts? I'm pretty sure that happened. I don't think VAR was in the Champions League throughout the whole season. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I'm sure my baby brain remembers VAR was not at the start of that Champions League season, but it was introduced in the quarterfinals or the knockouts when it just so happened to go against City. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I seem to vaguely remember that. Anyway, what I want to do here, listen to Baby Nobbins, by the way, leave a like on the video. Again, this isn't a new exercise. What I want us to do here is basically go pound for pound, position for position with this squad. It doesn't have to be a perfect comparison. You know, spoiler alert, I'm going to be comparing David Silva to Phil Foden. They aren't the same sort of player necessarily, but you hopefully see what I mean. Like I'm trying to make the parallels the same. Like I might be comparing Kusanov to Stones. They aren't the same sort of player, but you can hopefully see the idea and the general comparisonness. And then we'll get into the players who need to be moved on and etc. etc. So first of all, let's have a look at comparing the two squads. That's going to be my first port of call. So, just going to move these boys down here for a moment. And don't worry, we will get onto these lads in a momento. Okay. Edison and Bravo are just Ortega and Edison. Once again, are these lads staying here? We'll get into the potential outgoings in a moment. Well, should we start with the outgoings? Would that be a bit cleaner, actually, if I started with the outgoings and then we touched on the comparison of the squad? That might make a bit more sense, because there's no point to be comparing De Bruyne to anyone in this squad, because he's not going to be here next year, is he? Yeah, let's do that first of all. So, Kevin De Bruyne is obviously going. That is confirmed. There is no doubting that. That is not in dispute. We don't need to have that conversation anymore. Kevin De Bruyne is going. Calvin Phillips, Jesus Christ. I forgot he was still on our books. Yes, we need to get rid of him. I'm going to start with the indisputable ones. Get rid of the trash, says Ichigo. That's a bit harsh. Yeah, Calvin Phillips is going. Of course he is. There is no future for JSP at this club, in my view, and that saddens me, because I actually think JSP did a decent job whenever he was given a chance for City. His first match was against the most informed striker in Europe, and I thought he did quite a good job for his debut. But let's be realistic. We signed Hayes, we signed Barr, we signed Kusanov. There is no future for JSP in this squad. You know, there is clearly no future. If there was a future, we wouldn't have signed 3 up-and-coming, incredibly exciting centre-backs, who's the oldest one being a 20-year-old. There is no future for JSP here, and that's sad. But it's a thing. Grealish, you guys know I'm a big Grealish fan. He's got to go. He simply has to go. He's on an obscene amount of money relative to the player he now is for City. His Bournemouth cameo was nice, but that's what he is right now. He is this closer. He's a player you bring on if you want to see out a game. He's not a player now who you bring on to to score a goal. Realistically, he's not going to come on and change it. So for me, I'm sorry, Grealish has got to go. He's on. I know that capology is a load of bullshit, that wage thing. He's one of our highest earners. He's not going to start week in, week out. He's a burden to our wage bill right now. I think we need to move on. And again, I'm sorry to say it, I'm a big Grealish fan. We have to move on, especially when we've got such exciting wingers who can do a similar job to Jack and are on far less money, etc., etc. Herbal says, I doubt Jack will go, but I agree we should. Yeah, I'm going to try to be a bit realistic here as well. Otherwise, I would just be getting rid of everyone. I don't think everyone's going to go, but I do think Jack will be one of the names that we try to get out of the squad. And I do think that he will go. So I'm going to say get rid of Jack. I also think that his performances of late are being heavily overrated. He came on against United. I'm sorry, he was garbage when he came on. He didn't do anything. He was good against Leicester at home, the worst team in the league right now. That's lovely. And again, he came on to close the game against Bournemouth. That's fine. That's fine. Grealish has got to go, I'm afraid. Walker, again, that's another one. He's surely going to be going. We sent him out on loan to AC Milan halfway through the season. There's surely no doubt that he's going to be gone. Gundogan is an interesting one. I think that it is... I don't think that he will extend his contract. I know that his... I know that he's technically allowed to have this extension. I think that Gundogan will sort of think himself that it's time for me to move on. I actually think that Gundogan... I'm going to predict Gundogan to make that decision, and I'm going to predict him to go, I can't do this anymore at this level, so I'm going to leave. So I think that Gundo is another one on this chopping block. Maybe I'm wrong there. I do still think there is something in Gundogan if he's played less minutes and if he's got players around him who can run. But I think that Gundogan himself is a sort of player and sort of human who will say, I need to move on. I'd love him to stay in some sort of coaching capacity. I think he is going to go, though. Whilst I don't think that Kovacic is good enough to start, I think that he will stay, and I don't think that he's a number one priority for City to get rid of. I think that he will stay. I think that John Stones is done, sadly. The question will be, can we move him on? But I do think that I think you can only really keep one of Stones or Ake. I have said that before. I think that Stones will be going. Where's my phone, actually? I had notes. I had notes. 1 second, guys. Die. Yeah. That's. I was just looking at our centre-back depth, but even without Stones, it's a thing. Yeah, again, I love John, but he's another one who keeps getting injured, and Stones is so good that if he is fit and available, he's so good that you have to build the system around him because he is that brilliant and he's wasted otherwise. That's how he won the treble ultimately against Real Madrid when he was, when he was in the midfield, illustrating he's one of the only centre-backs, maybe the only centre-back in the world who can do that. But he can't be relied on. He can't be relied on, especially when we've got Ake, who himself is suffering from injury concerns. YK says, where's Mifuni? I've not included him. I don't think that he's going to see any football next. Isn't he like 16, 17? And we've got lots of other centre-back options. I think maybe the season after we can have that conversation. But yeah, I think Stones, if you're going to keep one of Stones or Ake, I agree with Sarthak. I think that Stones goes and Ake stays. And on that, I do think that there is something in keeping Ake. Especially considering the age of our other centre-backs, and also the fact that we need more left-footed defenders. We signed three, not three prospects, because Kusanov is good enough right now, but we signed three very young centre-backs, and that's lovely, they're all right-footed. Akanji is right-footed, Diaz right-footed, Kusanov, Hayes, Barr, these are all right-footers. So if we got rid of Ake, the only left-footed we would have would be Gvardiol. And we can talk about O'Reilly, who is obviously been playing at left-back as well. But in terms of our actual defenders, if we got rid of Ake, we'd only be left with Gvardiol as that left-footed defender. I think there's something in keeping Ake. Kovacic as well. I don't think Kovacic is good enough to start for City, but I think he can do our job as a squad player in a pinch. That's fine. If I'm being realistic, I think Bernardo stays. I don't want... This sounds really mean. I don't think Bernardo should stay, but I'm trying to be a little bit realistic here. I do not think that in a window where De Bruyne, Grealish, Gundo all go, I'd be staggered if Bernardo left as well. So I'm trying to be realistic here. I think Bernardo stays. McAtee is sadly got no future at City, and that's a shame, but he just doesn't. For his own sake, he needs to go. Peroni has confirmed that he wants to stay at Como, even though he would be a lovely player to keep and bring in, given what we need. He himself has said he wants to stay in Italy, so I don't think that he can even be convinced to stay. So I'm going to pop him on the he's going to leave pile. Jan Kuto, I think that's actually a loan with an obligation to buy, so I think he's definitely gone. He's not going to make it at City anyway. He's 22. I didn't realize he's 5'6". I didn't realize he's smaller than Rico Lewis. I think there is no way that he's there's no way he's got a future with City. Doyle, not the one we sold to Wolves, the one at Coventry. I just don't. Speaking of left-footed defenders, I just don't think there is a future there for him. We'll get into Mukasa in a moment. We'll get into Echeverry in a moment. I'm hopeful that he's going to stay. I think that Nunes is not good enough to start. I think there is something in keeping him as a utility player. And we'll get into the comparisons in a moment. He's not good enough to start, but I think there's something in keeping him as a utility player. He can play it right back. In a pinch, he can play out wide. It'd be lovely to give him a go in the middle, but we'll see. Question marks on Barr. I've no idea what's going to happen with Barr. This is maybe the one where I'm least sure on. I'm least sure on what's going to happen with this guy. he's doing very well with Lon. In fairness, he is 18 years old. We already have Jesus 19, and he's not really getting consistent minutes. It would not surprise me if he went out on loan again. I think he said that he wants to play for City next season, but I think that if we're trying to be realistic, I think he probably does end up going out on loan. If we did that, then what would our centre-back situation be? We'd have 1, 2, 3... No, you know what? Let's be optimistic and say that he gets popped in the squad. Let's say that. Why not? Now, maybe... I actually do think he probably should go on loan. You know, Zar said it then. Maybe go on loan to a Premier League side. Sorry, Zer said it there. Maybe go on loan to a Premier League side. That would be great for his development, I think, as well. Let's keep him on this left side for now. So that, I'm just going to create a little bit more room here. We won't need all these. We're not going to sign all these players. I just tried to put in one player for every single position and even a spare. Does anyone here think that Ortega and Ederson will be City players next season? Because I don't. Ortega wants to be a number 1, and that's fine. He's not good enough to be a number 1 at City, in my view. Ederson wants to leave. So that means that I think we need to sign 2 goalkeepers. So I'm popping Ederson and Ortega here. I think they will both go. Ederson will probably go to Saudi. Ortega will go because he wants to be a starting goalkeeper. And he's good enough to be a starting goalkeeper somewhere else. Just not at City. Yeah, you guys are all in agreement by the looks of it. I hope Ederson stays. I would also like, by the way, I'd also like Ederson to stay. I still think he's good enough to play for City, but he seems to be wanting to leave. So we shouldn't really want to keep a player who wants to go. And Ortega wants to be a number 1. So, and Ortega's not good enough to be our number 1. So therefore, by definition, he's also going to have to go. So that leaves us with these, Carson as well. So that leaves us with, I think it's pretty non-negotiable. All of these players are either going to, go out on loan somewhere, or like JSP, for example, might just go out on loan, or they're just going to run down their contract like De Bruyne, or they're just going to get moved on and sold at, a cut down fee, like a Grealish or a Phillips, a Stones, etc. That sort of thing. Again, I'd like to keep Ederson, Musty, I do agree. But he seems to have his heart set on moving elsewhere. So this now leaves us with these players on this left side. Again, the players on the left are players who I don't think are at risk of either going out on loan or being sold. The players at the bottom maybe are, but let's go into trying to now recreate as close as we can. Again, it's not going to be exact, but we can hopefully see the idea. Please make sure to leave a like on the video, by the way, if you are, if you have thumbs / fingers / whatever. It is free and it does. Hell, we have over 200 people watching, which is wonderful stuff for a Touchline talk. Let's get up to 115 likes, guys. You know the drill. So starting with Ederson and Bravo. Well, immediately, and I've done this on purpose, I've given us 2 new goalkeeper positions. So right off the bat, straight away, it's lovely that people are talking about, Florian Wirtz as a player to bring in. This is the number 1 priority position. If we are all in agreement that Ederson is leaving and that basically Ortega's therefore going to leave as well, the number 1 position has to be the number 1 position has to be goalkeeper and then backup goalkeeper. Because otherwise, we are not going to have a goalkeeper at the club outside of promoting a youngster. It was Ederson and Bravo, who's NOR, Nico O'Reilly. It was Ederson and Bravo in 18-19. We need new goalkeepers. Yeah, you guys know I'm a big fan of Chevalier. That's going to be the number 1 keeper for me. And then a backup keeper is who cares? It's a backup keeper. As long as they're competent, it doesn't really matter. They're not going to be as good as Ortega, because Ortega's good enough to be number 1. But as long as they are a competent backup. So right off the bat, the goalkeeper is the number 1 priority. If we agree that Ederson is leaving the club in the summer. Yeah? Goalkeeper number 1 priority. Right backs. Danilo and Walker. were our right back options in 18-19. I know Danilo sometimes played on the left, but you get what I mean. How can we replicate them? I think Danilo can be replicated with Matheus Nunes. This is not a player to start consistently at right back. This is a versatile player like Danilo was, who's going to be the second choice at right back. We also have Akanji who can play there, Lewis who can play there, even Kusanov can to an extent play there. I think that Nunes is good enough to be that, on paper, backup right back. Not starting right back. You'll notice that we have no other right back in the squad because we've gotten rid of Walker. Akanji can do a job there, but I'm not looking for a player who can do a job there. I'm looking for a player who can be good enough to be close to Kyle Walker in 18-19, there or thereabouts. And we don't have anyone like that. This, for me, is the second most important position after the goalkeeper. And that is the new right back. Yeah? Preferably, they would be a versatile fullback. I like the Cambiasso links. I like the Cambiasso links because he is a both-footed player, and he's officially a left back, but come on, he can do both. It does not matter. And the good thing about a Cambiasso is that he can go up to the wings in possession. He can also invert in possession. He's actually more versatile than Cancelo, who realistically was only able to invert for Cancelo. When Pep tried to play him as a more wide player, do you remember that Chelsea game? He hated it and he couldn't do it. It's very, very different sort of player. Cambiasso, if anything, is more versatile than a Cancelo. I'm not saying it has to be Cancelo, but I'm not saying it has to be Cambiasso, but that new right back has got to be the most urgent signing after goalkeeper. Goalkeeper, then right back must be the priority. No other player in the squad comes close to what Walker was offering back then. Yeah. And with that, I think the right back depth is fine. Once again, we have players who can do a job there thereafter. We have Lewis, we have Akanji, we have Kusanov. We have players who can do a job there. That's enough. That's enough depth there at right back. Let's move on to centre backs, and this is maybe the trickiest area. Laporte, left-footed centre back. Well, that's what Ake is. That's fine. Vincent Kompany, well, that's our Ruben Diaz. That's fine. John Stones it's not really the same, but it sort of is at the same time to an extent in Vitor Reis. It's not exact, but it's to an extent. And again, Noah Kanji isn't exactly Otamendi, but again, I think, and then if we are even saying Bar is here as well, there is enough centre-back depth there. And Lizzie said Gavadio centre-back. We'll come on to the the other positions later, but yeah. Sorry, I didn't even put Kusanov there. I forgot about him. I'm going to put you there just because these are more experienced. There is enough centre-back depth there. We've even got Gavadio who can play there. I'm going to pop him into a different position later. Even if Bar went out on loan, we have a lot of centre-back depth. There is even a world where we sign a right-back who can play at centre-back as well. I didn't realise that the centre-back depth was actually this good. It's sort of like when you visualise it, you do sort of realise, it's actually looking all right. And once again, there might be the option for Gavadio there. I'm personally not going to put him there because I think we've got enough centre-backs going on there. We've got Ake, Akanji, Kusanov, Diaz, Reis, and Bar. Now, Ake is the only left-footed one. If we were going to go for a centre-back in the summer, then we get a left-footed one. The more I look at it, the more I'm thinking there's not really much value in letting Ake go. Because if you're getting rid of Ake, you're going to have to bring in a left-footed centre-back. And that doesn't improve our number of left-footed centre-backs. We're still at 1. 2 if you include Gvardiol. It only makes sense to do that if you are getting rid of a different player like a Kanji or Diaz, which we're obviously not going to do. So I actually think the centre-back depth is fine, unless you think that we should be getting... Because we can't justify, even if we get rid of Bar on loan, you can't justify signing another centre-back unless you want to get rid of, 2 centre-backs here. Maybe, I don't know, send out Hayes on loan as well and sell Ake, and then I think you can have that conversation. But unless that happens, we've got plenty of centre-backs, and there is even a world where we don't even end up getting rid of Stones. Or we can't move him on. In which case, there's a world where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, even maybe 8 centre-back options, which is too many. So I actually think we're probably okay in terms of centre-backs. Yeah? Diaz, Kusanov, Akanji's been injured a lot this season. Ake's been injured a lot this season. It's a big if, but if Ake does stay fit, Akanji hasn't been an injury-prone player at City, and he's shown that he's good enough to be a defender for City. We can't physically justify bringing in another centre-back unless we move on like 3 in the summer. Centre-backs, done. Are they of the same quality compared to what we had? I mean, almost definitely not. I would, because, Laporte in the 18-19 season was mental, for example. But I do think that we can make a parallel, because Company was sort of on his way out then. In fact, that was his last season, wasn't it? 18-19? Yes, it was. We can make a parallel, between, Company and a Diaz. We can make a comparison between, Otamendi, Kusanov. I think we could even, because Stones wasn't wonderful that season, we could even make a comparison between, Otamendi and Akanji, maybe. Hopefully that makes sense. Moving on to left backs. A lot of you guys are saying Stones might not even leave. In which case, look at this. Look at how many centre backs that we have at the club. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 if you're including Gvardiol. So he definitely can't be bringing in a centre back. Who's my... I don't even know, because I've not even been properly considering centre-backs. If we are going to bring one in, they have to be left-footed. That's all I'm going to say on that. I don't really have a strong opinion on a name. I know Branthwaite's been linked with us. I think he's a good player, but he's certainly not a great player. But he is young. Maybe he could develop into that. We've already got very young centre-backs, though. The nameless one became an Abinio. Big up to you, mate. There's the top of my head. Not really showing up for some reason. Right. Left backs. Our starting left back was supposed to be Mendy that season. Didn't turn out that way. We have Gvardiol. We also have him going the option of playing at centre-back. Zinchenko. Who is our Zinchenko? Who is a left-footed midfielder who can play at left-back? We want, if we're trying to replicate Zinchenko, our backup left-back, we want a midfield left-footer who can play in midfield and at left-back. Versatile player. That is Nico O'Reilly. That is who that is. He's established himself as that player over the past couple of weeks. Exactly. It's Nico O'Reilly, guys. Exactly. Yeah. Pretty straightforward there. Yeah. You guys are in agreement. He's established that he can do that. And that's really good, by the way, because before I was thinking that we were going to have to sign this backup fullback. But given Nico O'Reilly's performances, he's good enough to be a squad left back and a versatile option therein, in my view. We can, just going back to, again, this, I didn't say, I said I wasn't going to put a name to players, but if we were to sign Cambiasso, then that would also mean that this right back would also be able to play at left back. That could also happen. So that's why I'm very interested in this Cambiasso player, or type player, versatile fullback. I know I've said right back, but that could equally be, right back who can play at left back, or left back who can play at right back. So that means we technically have another option here. And in that world, you would be able to have, Cambiasso, Gvardiol centre-back, Kusanov, other centre-back, and then, like a Kanji right back. Or, you know what I mean. That's fine. So far, we have enough defensive and goalkeeper depth here. We've had to sign 3 players already. We already need 3 players here. Backup goalkeeper, first choice goalkeeper, first choice fullback. Trying to be generic. First choice fullback. Certainly someone who can play at right back, though, definitely. If they can fill in at left back, even better. Fernandinho is Rodri, obviously. Like that, we don't need to spend any more time on that. Okay, these are the more sort of... This was the trickiest area to define because you could technically have like these players all together as they are all technically midfielders. I tried to define it as more sort of like central / versatile midfielders, and then like more offensive minded midfielders. I don't know how else you might want to term that. But that's what I've tried to do. Just while we're here, actually, let's just do the attackers because that's annoying me. Like Aguero and Jesus, that's Haaland and Marmoush. There's not a conversation there. That's fine. Swap them around for the purposes of mirroredness. There we go. That's not in dispute, hopefully. Yeah. Haaland is Aguero. Marmoush is Jesus. Right. Rodri's Fernandinho. Yeah. So Delph. Who is our Delph? Technically a okay, this could have been Nico O'Reilly in fairness. Technically probably at his best in a midfield, but can also fill in at fullback. You would never want to start him, realistically, but he is there as a versatile option and he can start some, cup games and baby games. Of the players we have available, I think it is Rico Lewis. Yes. I think before it may have been Mateus Nunes, but we've already got him as our backup right back. I think, therefore, we are looking at Rico Lewis. Again, as not a player you want to be starting games, but he doesn't have to start games. He's there as a squad option. He can fill in midfield. He can fill in at fullback. It's not a problem. No one's expecting him to start games. That is fine. That's fine. Gundogan Bernardo. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because if Bernardo is staying, then there is a temptation to say that Bernardo is Bernardo. I made notes earlier. What did past Nobbins say? What was my past assessment, or did I just leave it blank? Yeah, I left it blank, Fairs. Right, let's start with Gundogan then. I think that's a little bit... It's a good point, Lizzie. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have to start every game, but if you put him in the right setup, he can play well. He's not a player we should be selling, in my view, or loaning out. I think he needs to stay. Gundogan, in the 18-19 season, was not actually the great goal scorer that he would become a couple seasons later. He was that was his first like proper season, I feel like, where he was a proper starter, Gundogan. And he was... What did Gundogan do that season? Well, he was an 8, obviously. He was more of a box-to-box type player. I mean, still was later in his career. He wasn't necessarily a goal scorer, but most importantly that season, he was able to fill in for Fernandinho when he got injured towards the latter end of the season. I think there was even... Was it a League Cup final or an FA Cup final where he started instead of Fernandinho? Maybe. For me, that is Nico Gonzalez. I don't think Nico has been brought in to be a backup defensive midfielder. If he has been brought in to do that, that is a horrible signing because he ain't a 6. He is an 8 who can fill in for a defensive midfielder. It's not his best position. Nico, for me, is the Gundogan replacement, whatever you want to call him. He will need to add goals to his game if he wants to be as good as what Gundogan was later in his City career. But right now, I think it's fine to make this comparison. He's still young. I think Nico's, 23 years old? So he's still a youngish player. I think that Nico is the Gundogan. I don't know about Bernardo because you got to remember 18-19 Bernardo was a fantastic player who could play in the centre. He could also play out wide, but that season he did tend to play centrally. He was actually, didn't he win Etihad Player of the Year that season as well? I'm going to leave Bernardo for now because I'm not sure. I would be tempted to put Bob there, but we will come to the wide players in a moment. In fact, maybe I should do the wide players now. Sane, Sterling, Mahrez. We had 3 wingers there. And for me, based on what we have right now, We have Bob. We have Doku. We have Savio. These are the wide options in my view. You've got and again, this isn't comparing them in respect of quality. Savio is Sane, Doku is Sterling, Bob is Mahrez. Now, there is obviously a drop in quality there. Because Bob is not as good as Mahrez, and Doku is not as good as Sterling. And in fairness, Savio next season could get up to those Savio heights. I do rate him that highly. I think that this is where we're working. This is what we're working with, though, based on the current squad. I think that's fine as a comparison. It is obviously a downgrade in terms of quality, but again, these are young players. Savio, in his first season's got like 8 league assists. Doku, I think, is still getting better. And Bob, we've not seen enough of this season, but I think he could explode. That's washed wingers in world football attacks, says Musty. Yeah, there is a drop-off in quality, of course there is. But again, they are young. Bengal says Bob is 18-19 Bernardo. And maybe he is. And maybe... Am I going to agree with LB here? But then where does Bernardo go? That's the question. Because LB is of the view that we need a starting quality-wide player. And I guess that does depend on what you think Bob is. Do you... Because I think that Bob is supposed to be our starting right winger. I do honestly think that. I don't think that Savio was supposed to come in and immediately become the starting right winger. I think that was supposed to be Bob's destiny this season. But he broke his leg. Jury's out on that one for me. I don't know. Well, there's no doubt that Doku and Savio are definitely Sane and Sterling. I'm going to come back to that one. Because I like with the Bernardo, I'm just going to highlight them just because I'm not... Mahrez is that experienced winger. I'm not sure on Bernardo yet. Okay. Once again, the comparisons aren't perfect. I'm not saying Foden's as good as David Silva, obviously, but that is the closest equivalent that I can come up with. This one is interesting. The KDB and Foden situation. This is what it comes down to for me. If you think that Echeverri is good enough to start on a consistent basis for City next season, then that means that he can go here as the De Bruyne position. Again, this isn't like for like. Don't get confused. It's not like for like. If you don't think that he's going to get that many starts next season, then Echeverri needs to go here, where past Foden was, where he was playing every now and then. And, sometimes he would, sometimes he'd start, sometimes he'd have big moments, like against Spurs. That is the question. And that is a massive conversation to have. Because, again, if you think Echeverri is good enough to just start right from the off, then therefore that means we can promote Mukasa to what Foden was. I think that would be a mistake. I don't think Echeverri is ready or good enough for that yet. And I also think it would be too early to promote Mukasa, who's only 17 years old. But again, if you think Echeverri is good enough to start, then you don't actually think we need this player. I'm going to reel it in. I'm going to put Echeverri here. In which case, we do need another player here. Just by virtue of numbers, if we want to try to replicate what 18-19 was. Just because, again, Bob is not going to be able to fill that De Bruyne shoe. Neither is Kova. These are the players we've got left in the squad. We've got Bob, Kova, Bernardo, Mukasa, and if we're saying that Echeverri is the Foden of a few years ago, then that means that Mukasa is not going to get any game time, and he should probably go out either on loan or is not really going to get promoted to the starting 11. There's probably not really enough room for him if we're trying to make it as much of a comparison as possible. That's not to say he can't be involved in squads. These are more players who are actually going to get, more than like 5 league starts, for example. That's what I'm trying to include here. You get me? In which case, we need a new player here. Obviously. I've put new attacker midfielder. It could equally be a new central midfielder, if they are gifted enough offensively. So, whilst I put new AM, it could equally be new central midfielder. In fact, I might put new CM there just because De Bruyne did play a little bit deep. No, we'll put new AM. No, never mind. It's just clearer, isn't it? So there we go. So we've established another signing needs to be made. Promote Echeverry, but if we're saying that he's getting Foden minutes from like around 2019-ish, we're not talking about a lot of minutes there, are we? So that leaves us with Bernardo and Kovacic and Bob. I'm of the... What am I of the view of? The trick... This would be so much easier if I could just establish that Bernardo's leaving. That would make my life a lot easier. But again, I'm trying to be realistic. Bernardo is not going anywhere this summer. If he was, then it would be very easy to do. It'd be very easy to do. But the fact that I think he's staying is, who do I therefore compare him to? I don't actually think that Bernardo next season is good enough to fill in the shoes of any player that's left here. I think he's almost, this sounds really harsh, I think he's almost like dead space in a way. That sounds really mean, but trying to make a direct comparison, I don't think that we can. Or we could say that a combination of Bernardo and Kovacic is equal to one player. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Just having a look at my past notes. What have I done there? I've put Echeverry down as Foden. Yeah, I just left Bernardo and De Bruyne blank, though. Why have I done that? Past Nobbins has done Gundo equals Nico / Kova / Gundo. I actually put Gundo staying here, okay. Pookie Bernardo. Bob in plus a new first team winger. Bernardo can relax, says Mr. Brown. If I say that a combination of Kovacic and Bob and Bernardo equates to what Bernardo was last in this squad, does that count? Does that count? I don't know. Or does it make more sense to just say that Bob is going to play most of his games out wide? I just can't see Bob playing centrally that much next season. If we've got Foden, Echeverry, Nico, Rodri, a new signing, and then maybe another signing on top of that. I don't see how often he's going to play. I think it makes more sense to put Bob there. I'm going to say that that Kova and Bernardo technically go here. But regardless, these players aren't of the requisite quality, and we will also need to bring in a new central midfielder. And maybe that makes more sense. I'm not even going to compare them. These are just like squad boys. I'm not even going to compare them. And that sounds really mean, but we need a new central midfielder. We just do. We just do. And with that, squad options, we can pop Bar in. We can pop players here who we think might not actually be good enough to start consistently, but are still available in the squad. So right now, what we've done, guys, is we've made the squad as big as 18-19, but we've also got some bonus options on the bench or around the squad. So the squad is actually 4 players bigger. This is it with the new signings. So what signings do we need to bring in? New goalkeeper, new right back, new central midfielder. That's just like an all-round midfielder. New, more offensive midfielder. Minimum 5 players. Minimum. We could even have a conversation about, do we need an experienced wide player? I don't know if we necessarily do, because my point is this. even though I've put Marmoush in the, along with Jesus, I think that Marmoush will also be an option out wide. That doesn't mean that he's going to start at left wing and be a touchline winger. We know that he can come inside so long as he's got an overlapping option. I think that City will be satisfied with this as wide options. You've got Bob, Doku, Savio, Marmoush. I also think, guys, that Echeverry is going to get some minutes out wide. I'd be staggered. I would be genuinely staggered if Echeverry got more minutes next season centrally than out wide. You might not like to hear that. I'd just be very surprised if he was immediately given that responsibility centrally. So Echeverry probably will play there a little bit. Foden can play there, of course. Bernardo can play there. And if we are playing false wingers, then we're actually not going to play any wide players anyway. I think there are enough wide options there where it's not a priority position in my view. Goalkeeper is number one priority, followed by backup goalkeeper. Then it's right back. I then think we need that all-round midfielder first and foremost, and then the attacking midfielder, and only then am I going to entertain talking about a wide player. And we've got to be a bit realistic here. We're not going to bring in 5 starters, are we? I'd be very surprised if that happened. With that in mind, let's now... I'm now going to remove all the players on the right. I'm now going to distribute the squad in respect of the stars, the squads, the sells, or the loans. So this is what we had. Again, say goodbye to all these guys. And if we have a look at the direct comparison, I think the strikers are fine. Aguero and Jesus, Hull and Marmoush, that's fine. Yes, the wide players right now, as things stand, are a downgrade. So, of course, Sane, Sterling, Mahrez were better than Bob, Doku, Savia. That's not to say these players are bad, though. It depends on who the new attacking midfielder is, in fairness. Like, if we sign you the best one in the world, this isn't necessarily a downgrade right here. It might be there or thereabouts even. Well, no, it won't be because they're not going to be as good as De Bruyne, let's be real. Central midfield, it could, again, depending on who we bring in, that could be about even. Rodri to Ferner, that's good. I actually think it's an improvement at left back. I think it could be an improvement at right back. Probably won't be an improvement in goal. It arguably probably won't be an improvement at centre-back either. But again, high standards here. For me, this is the best Premier League squad in history. I think someone asked earlier, why did I compare it to 18-19? It's because in my view, this is their best squad in Premier League history. So I'm the highest standard is what I'm trying to compare it against. So let's get rid of all these players now, shall we? Where's my mouse? There it is. Just to make some room. Thank you, Zad, for your super chat. Nice live stream. Thank you, mate. Right. So. What am I doing? These are potential new signings. We can always add more. But I don't think that we'll need to. Right, so let's start with players on the chopping block. Players who we think are going to be sold. That's what these lads... Or loaned out. That's what this is here. Or just won't make it into the first team squad on a consistent enough basis for it to be justified. That's what these players are, unfortunately. Basically, we don't really want these players to be playing a lot of Premier League football next season, if any at all. That's what that box represents. These are going. This is... I don't want to say it's the get rid pile, because, again, Mikasa has probably got a future here. But, you know, in respect of, are you going to realistically see any Premier League football next season? This is the bin pile. The next one I'm going to put as players who are players who we should be keeping, obviously, but the players or players who we think are just going to stay, but players who we don't want to see starting week in, week out on a consistent basis. That is Bernardo, Kovacic, again, even if these guys stay, and that's a big if, Bar Hayes, Lewis. Oh, I missed German Chicken Wings super chat from last stream, so let me just read that out as well, mate. Thank you so much. I believe Pep played that formation because he was scared to lose. Today was very slow compared to the last two games. I would agree with that. It was a coward's way of playing, and in fairness, I don't disagree, German Chicken Wing. Thank you so much for your super chat. And another one. Can we play 4-4-1-1 formation next season with the players we have, assuming we get Wirtz and Cambiasso? Would you play midfielders or wingers? Can I play 4-4-1-1 next season with the players we have, assuming to get Wirtz and Cambiasso? You definitely could. You would not. You definitely wouldn't be able to start Echeverri and Wirtz in the same side, and Marmoush in the same side. You see, a decision would have to be made there. Of course, you could get Foden, Wirtz, Marmoush in there, but you wouldn't be able to get Echeverri in there. That would be tricky. Maybe we can come to a setup in a moment. Fortune for German Chicken Wing. The gambler is like the fisherman. Both have beginner's luck. Brilliant. Fortune for Zide. The simplest answer is to act. Yo, I wish our fucking midfielders saw this fortune the other day. Christ. Right. Yeah, so again, these are players where you don't... If you see them on the team sheet, you're like, right, this isn't our strongest 11. You get me? That does not mean these are bad players. It just means they aren't our stars. They aren't our stars based on what they've demonstrated either at City or a past club. That's all it is. So, like, again, I'm not saying these are bad players. Obviously, the backup goalkeeper would be in here as well. I'd like to think the right back will be a star. That remains to be seen. In fact, maybe we should put the new signings in a separate area over here. Down here, maybe. Because it's not fair, because they might be a star. I can't judge them yet until I have a name. That's a Kanji. That's Ake. Right now, this is Kusanov, I think. He's only 20 years old, and I don't think he's yet a diamond, a star, whatever we want to say. Diaz definitely is. Rodri definitely is. Again, O'Reilly not quite yet. Rodri definitely is. Foden definitely is. Haaland definitely is. Echeverri again. Could be in the future, but not yet. Bob, not enough evidence of it yet. Again, Doku Savio, not enough evidence of it yet. But they could well be. But I'm talking about either what we've seen from them in their City careers or at past clubs, that sort of thing. Nico, no. New attacker midfield, new goalkeeper. Marmoush is a tricky one. I think that he will be this. But we're not basing it on this year, Bree. If we were basing it on this year, Bree, I wouldn't have anyone here. I'm basing it off what we know these players are. We don't have half the squad to start. No, again, maybe I wasn't... I don't think I phrased it right last time as well. Stars, diamonds here. The spine of the team. The players who you want to be starting consistently week in, week out. And again, stars, diamonds. These are not necessarily... Because some of these players will start. Some of these players will start, obviously. Like Savio Doku will start. Do you get what I mean? Hopefully that makes a bit more sense. Yeah. What do you guys think about Marmoush? Based on, his Frankfurt season, certainly this season, I think based on glimpses at City, in a bad year, I think there is an argument that he could be in this area. What do you think? Because again, I'm not talking about starters. I'm talking about my diamonds, my stars. You think he's a star? I think Omar needs to learn how to be a striker like Mbappe. Aesthetic-wise, he's a star. Star. Depends, says EA. Marmoush is in the middle. Marmoush is a future G. What about now? He can start. Again, this isn't start. This is star. Star/diamond. /core. Like, you want to be... You'd be not... You're going into a massive game. It's like, nah, he has to be starting. Star, right? Okay, let's pop him in there then. I think he's in the middle there. But we're going to pop him in there for now. So now this is that. If we are doing that, that means that we are talking. That means that there is progress here. Because when I did this in January, before we signed any players, we only had those 5 names. We had Diaz, Gavardio, Rodri, Foden, Haaland. And that was it. So if we're including Marmoush, that means we've actually gone up 1 by 6, which is nice. It means we've added 1. That means the January window was good, because we've added that player. How's Diaz a star? Hello? It is still not enough. I know I've deleted the players now, but go back to that either the treble winning year or go back to that 18-19 year and look at all the stars we had then. Edison, Vincent Kompany, Laporte, Kyle Walker, Fernandinho, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo, Aguero. I'm sure I'm missing some. That's at least 9. Gundogan that year. Did I say Gundogan? We're in double-digit stars there. So we are lagging if we're trying to get to that. Treble winning year, I'm sure we could go through that side as well and pick out all the stars. And it'll be a lot more than this. So we need at least one of these players to be a star. At least. Preferably all of them. That's almost definitely not going to happen. We need more in this left bracket here. Again, if you're just coming to the show, I'll try to just outline in some. What we have on the right are players who are either in the bin basically, or are not going to be able to feature for City next season for whatever reason, either a sell or a loan or just get rid. The middle column are players who are good enough and we think will stay at City next season, more importantly, but they aren't in that upper echelon of player. The one on the left are those upper players. So yeah, minimum 5 signings, minimum. An all-round midfielder, 2 goalkeepers, a new right back, who can also preferably play at left back, and this new attacker midfielder. This, for me, is the minimum requirement for the summer. If other players go, then we can have a conversation. Like, let's say, I don't know, for whatever reason, Bob becomes injury prone. Then we might need to bring in a new wide player. Right now, I'm looking at our wide options as we've got Bob, Doku, Savio, Marmoush. We've even got Bernardo. We've even got Foden. There are a lot of players who can play there. It is not even a top 5. In fact, it probably is your number 5 priority position. Cool. Wow. Thank you for the super chat, mate. I'd move Mikasa to the middle section. Debatable, but keeping Peroni would be ideal for depth. He's developed well. Livramento is a must. IMO. So Peroni we popped in the right side because he wants to stay in Italy. So I've just accepted that he's not going to be staying. I'd like to keep him, but it's not going to happen. Mikasa, we couldn't find a place for him as like a player who's going to get 5 league starts because we're bringing in this other new central midfielder and new attacker midfielder. I think next season's going to be 1 season too early. Maybe the season after, when we move on, Kovacic and Bernardo, maybe then. Fortune for cool. Wow. You will soon discover a major truth about the one you love most. Oh my god. That sounds intense. But that's your fortune, mate. Hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, so priority positions. Goalkeeper. Plural. Then a right back. For me, then an all-round midfielder. Because that is still a... Right now, our only options there are going to be in like that more defensive-minded area are like Rodri and Nico. So we need someone else there. And then this attacking midfielder as well. And maybe we can talk about a new winger thereafter. But this is the bare minimum requirement and necessity. I would love the attacker midfielder to be a star. I'd love the central midfielder to be a star. I'd love the right back to be a star. And of course, the goalkeepers. But we'd probably be looking at 500 million quid to get 5 stars in, or even 4 stars in. Where's Nico O'Reilly? He is... Here he is, mate. NOR. Nico O'Reilly. Names that are going around are, you know, Wirtz, obviously. And he is a star player, of course he is. Central midfield, to be fair, I don't think we've been linked to that many. Mine one would be Belieber. He's not yet a star, but he will be one. Right back, we're being linked with Cambiasso. I'm not going to say that he is a star yet, but he absolutely could be. And then Chevalier for the goalkeeper. Again, I'm not going to say he's a star yet, but minimum one of those players has got to be a star. And then we've got 7, and then we are really cooking. Especially with the attack, because if this player is one, you know, attacker midfielder, then that means 1, 2, 3, 4, in my view, more what you might say offensive-minded players are these starlets. If Camavinga doesn't start versus Arsenal, he might want to leave. Hey, I would love Camavinga. I'd love him. Alex says Livramento. That would be fun. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no. There we go, guys. I hope that is a useful visualization of the work that needs to be done. We did homegrown last time, and I think that we were fine on it. Was the I can never remember. It is the requirement. You need 17, maximum of 17 non-homegrown players. Is that right? And I'm pretty sure when we did this, we were actually fine. So if that is, can someone please double check if it is 17? I'm going to go through them now. Diaz, Gvardiol, Rodri, Haaland, Marmouche. We'll just go with the players we have right now. Nunes, Bernardo, Akanji, Kovacic. Hayes is young enough to qualify as homegrown, to not be there right now, I think. Something like that. I think Kusanov will go over the threshold. So Kusanov. We're at 10. Doku. I think Savia will go over the threshold. Nico Gonzalez. We're fine. We're fine. Because Echeverry doesn't count because he's young enough. Barr's young enough. Hayes is young enough. That's fine. So we're at 7. So we're at 13. And that's the thing, Tony. It's not you need I don't think it's you need a minimum amount of homegrown players. It's that you have a maximum of non-homegrown players. And I've just counted 13 there before the new signings, obviously. Let's say we bring in a non-homegrown right back. We bring in a non-homegrown attacking midfielder. And we bring in a non-homegrown starting goalkeeper. We're on the edge. As long as we bring in, like, you know, a homegrown backup goalkeeper, which shouldn't be a problem. You know, that could be a thing. I think we're chilling. Even if we did, that's still 17. Again, it's on the edge, but we are just about fine. We are just about fine. The Champions League is the issue as they don't qualify as young players. Yes, so I think that what we'll see for Hayes, Hayes probably just won't get involved in the squad. You know, Hayes won't get involved in the squad, and another player won't get involved in the squad. You know, it might be Barr if he stays here, or it might be, depending on what Pep thinks of Echeverry, it might be Echeverry. So I don't think it will be a problem in respect to the Champions League. Again, Hayes just won't be included. Like, Hayes wasn't included in the most recent Champions League group because we could only register an additional 3, and we didn't register Hayes. We just won't register him, and that's not a problem. That's fine, isn't it? Because he won't be starting anyway. What qualifies as homegrown? Something like if you're in an academy for a certain amount of time, that's why Ake counts as homegrown. Obviously, if you like English or whatever, and like in an English academy, then that's a thing. It's also to do with your age. Like if you're under 20 or under 21, they don't count as non-homegrown. So we're good. We're actually fine. as long as we don't bring in, 6 non-homegrown players, then we're actually chilling. And this is even with moving on, Stones, Walker, Grealish, and Phillips, and even JSP, who are all going to be homegrown, aren't they? So there is no homegrown problem here. That's chill. We're fine on that. We just might have to make a sacrifice with Hayes not being in the squad for the Champions League. I'm personally fine with that as a concept. Yeah, we're on the edge. We are on the edge. We will have to have some homegrown players as our starters consistently. Obviously, just to satisfy that. But it's absolutely chill and it's absolutely fine. I believe. I think I've done the numbers there. That's all good. Again, we just can't bring in 6 or 7 non-homegrown players. But the good news is we don't have to bring in a homegrown central midfielder. Now, we might want to bring in Wharton, who does count, obviously. And I think he would be a nice option because he would have been good against United. If he was playing instead of Gundogan in the derby, he would count as homegrown. Yes, FF. If he was playing instead of Gundogan in the derby, then he would have played those passes into Foden, into De Bruyne, into Marmoush. And then we would have had a much better time. Do you guys watch my Manchester derby analysis video? 9 times our central midfielders passed to our more offensive midfielders or our attackers. Only 9 times in that first half. Marmoush, bless him, received it once from our 3 central players. The definition of scraps. I mean, he must now know what it feels like to be hauling at times. Deary me. Let's also have a conversation about budget, because Zoheb says Chevalier and Garcia would cost us around £65 million. People talk about a war chest, or whatever. How much money do we think City can spend gross? I'm not talking about net, because we can have debates about how much you're going to net for Grealish, for Stones, for blah, 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 blah. How much do we have to spend gross, do we reckon? I reckon a reasonable amount, considering the level of rebuild required, is at like 300 million quid. I think that's fair. Gross. Net, it's going to be a lot more. I reckon gross, we can talk about 300 million quid. Lacey says 250. Real Maro says 400. Musti says 250. Satyam says 300. Smian 300. Savak 500. 250, 500, 250 to 300, 350, 300. 350 without sales. Yeah, so sorry, gross is without sales. Yeah. 350, 250 to 300. I think we're averaging at about anywhere between 250 to 350. That's what I'm asking. How much can we spend? Or how much needs to be spent? I reckon around 300 mil is probably around how much we can spend for FFP purposes or PSR purposes, whatever it's called nowadays. And it's also, yeah, I think that's probably practical. A backup goalkeeper is going to be not a lot of money. I think it's almost negligible. I'm not saying it's going to be nothing, but you're not going to need to spend 50 million quid on a new backup goalkeeper, are you? You're probably looking at goalkeeper and new goalkeeper combined around 50 to 60 million, I'd say, to get a starting goalkeeper and a backup. So that might be, the starter costs 40, the backup costs 10. Or maybe the starter costs 45 and the backup costs 15. We're looking at around 50 million. I think that's a fair amount. Let me know if you guys disagree. I think that makes sense. We might have to replace Scott Carson as well. We'll have to bring in a third choice goalkeeper. That'd be another £1 million. Is that around 50 million? Maybe that's underestimating it. I think that's reasonable, though. Right back, versatile fullback, you're looking at 50 million minimum. Again, you might be looking at even more. You might be looking at 60 million. Bree says 70 million plus a backup. Steve says actually 80. Let's go to 60. Let's say 50 million for the 50 million pounds for the starter, 10 million for a backup. Averages out. It might be 55 for the new goalkeeper, 5, whatever. Let's say 60. I think 60 for this fullback. Didn't Juventus want 70 for Cambiasso? I think Walker and Mendy nearly 10 years ago cost 50 million. I think 60 million is probably reasonable. So already I've spent 120 million pounds on 3 players. On a starting right back, a starting keeper, and a backup keeper. I've spent 120 million. This is gross, remember. So that means I have 180 million left on minimum 2 players. That actually could work out. We could, in theory, spend, 100 million pounds on a new attacking midfielder and 80 million pounds on this more all-round midfielder. I suppose the issue with that is, if everyone is wanting Wirtz, that is not going to get you Wirtz. Because he's going to cost a lot more than that. He's probably going to be like 150 million, isn't he? Maybe that's an exaggeration. 125. So if you wanted to get Wirtz, it would be, around 125 to 130. That sort of thing. So if you did get him, that means that you've only got 50 million for central midfield. This is why I'm not entirely convinced that Wirtz is the best player for City to get. I think that I think it makes more sense. I don't think it makes sense if we're saying that this is the budget. 150 million or thereabouts is going to be about how much it costs. Now, that is half the budget that we have allocated here. And we may be actually being optimistic there. If we are going to sign this player, I'm not saying that it has to be, but I think if it's because again, these are names that keep getting brought up, Baena and Wirtz. I'm personally edging more towards a Baena type player than a Wirtz, because Baena has a release clause which is a lot more manageable, and he offers what City most need in that sort of area, which is the passing. That's not to say we don't have passes in the side, but we need more. So I would probably rather go for a Baena type player than spend like 130-ish million on Wirtz. No, but Jimmy, we're talking about gross here. We're only talking about gross here, because again, we can have arguments about players going. So for me, and I said I didn't want to introduce names into this situation, and I'm not saying that Wirtz would be a bad signing. I'm just saying that I'm on the fence, and I don't like to sit on the fence, but I'm just on the fence, not because of the quality of the player he is. Looking at what we need as priorities, which is goalkeeper and right back first and foremost, and then looking at budget thereafter. So I might be looking at getting a cheaper option for the attacking midfield area. Doesn't have to be Baena, but someone like that. People are saying Xavi Simons as well, I don't know. And then you've got more money to get this central midfield option. Because what's Baena's release clause? Is it like 50 million or 80 million or something? I think it might only be 50 million. That gives me 130 million. Yes, YK, because I'm Foden FC. Very intelligent comment, mates. Well done. I definitely don't care about what's right for the club. I literally illustrated it because I'm not convinced it's the best use of funds. But you keep going, pet. In which case, you can, as I say, allocate more funds to a central midfielder. That might make the most sense. The Gibbs White. If we get Gibbs White, I'm so concerned at that link, man. Why? Why? He's a fine player, but why? Yeah. And we haven't even talked, because some of you guys said we need to get a winger as well. So if we want to do that, how much do you think a star winger is going to cost in this market? We are looking at like near 100 million, aren't we? How much was Marmoush? Was he 60, 70 million? We're looking at around 80-ish million minimum for a... If we're talking about a winger who can be up to the standard of what Mahrez was, or, you know, Sane, Sterling back in the day, we're looking at 80 plus million quid. So if we're introducing this wide player as well, then with this 300 million budget that we allocated, we are not coming close. Even if we want to go on the cautious side and say, okay, Wirtz will cost 120 million. 60 million for the goalkeeper, 60 million for the right back, so that's 120 million. 120 million for Wirtz, 240 million. So I now have 60 million pounds for a central midfielder and a winger. It's not. That can't happen. It's not going to happen, is it? That's not even enough to get one of those players. Never mind both of them. So I'm just trying to put into perspective. If our starting point is we have 300 million gross, it might be more. In fairness, it could be 500 million gross. I don't know. But you can't have your cake and eat it. Because, as I say, there are so many people saying we need a new goalkeeper and a backup goalkeeper and a right back and an attacking midfielder and a central midfielder and a winger. You can't have all of those players and the names you are attributing to them. It can't happen. Unless you're saying we're going to spend 500 million gross in the summer. And I don't even know if that is physically possible. Even without the wide player, let's say that means I've only got 60 million pounds to spend on this player, and I don't think that's enough money. This summer is not as easy as I think it's being made out to be. Get Salah on a free, yeah. How much is Wharton, and does he have a release clause? Because I wouldn't mind Wharton, because I think he's a good player. I think Wharton is a good player. He's also homegrown. He's also a passer. He's an all-rounder. That would be fun. Cool. Wow. Thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Attacking midfielder should be Cherky or Baena. Right back, Livramento, Cambiasso, Asnu. Central midfielder still, I forgot about him in fairness. Wharton, Kamara, Larson, Kone. Goalkeeper, keep Edison 1 more year and buy... Oh, I don't even know who he is. As a backup, wildcard, Rodrigo Mora. Sadly, cool. Wow, I think Edison's leaving. Thank you so much for your super chat, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the channel. Here's a fortune for you. You are contemplating some action which will bring credit upon you. The priority positions, Mr. A, are this, and it's in this order. It is in this order. Goalkeeper is the #1 priority, no debate. If we think Edison's leaving, there is no debate there. Forget about an attacking midfielder. Forget about a central midfielder. Goalkeeper is the #1 priority if Edison's leaving, and he is leaving. He's going to Saudi. The only reason he didn't go to Saudi was because the deal fell through in the summer, according to the journalists. So he's gone. We've got to forget about Edison, I'm afraid. He's gone. Goalkeeper's #1 priority. Second priority is technically a backup goalkeeper. Because if Edison's leaving, Ortega's not going to be good enough to be our #1. So technically, backup keeper is the second priority position, I guess. But I won't include backup positions. Right back then becomes the second most important position. Because you'll notice we do not have a right back right now. If Walker's leaving, we don't have an option at right back. We have Nunes who can play there. He's a backup. Kusanov is a centre-back. Akanji is a centre-back who can play there. I don't want him to be my starting right-back. If Stone stays, I guess he can play there as well. Right-back is the #2 priority. No debate. For me, there is no debate there. Goalkeeper right-back. This is where you can have a debate. Do we need an attacking midfielder more than an all-round midfielder? Now, I would actually contend that based on the issues at City this season, a central midfielder is actually more of a priority than an attacking midfielder, based on the challenges we've experienced this season. I don't mind if you want to argue the opposite, that's fine. I will not entertain any arguments about the goalkeeper and right back, though. That's clearly #1 and #2. You can have an argument about an attacking midfielder and a central midfielder. For me, based on the issues, central midfielder is more important than this attacking midfielder. But we're splitting hairs there. And then maybe we can entertain a winger. Well, that is #5 priority, and if we want to replace these positions, we are already spending 300-ish million quid gross, which is what we think our budget's going to be. It might be like 500 million net, but I don't want to get into a debate about how much is that player going to go. That's the order of priority in my view. Number 1, no debate, goalkeeper. Number 2, no debate, right back. Number 3 and 4, there is a debate, central all-round midfielder, more attacking midfielder. That's what must happen, though. And we need to be a little bit more realistic. We can't also have a winger and bring in this winger who is going to cost 80 million quid, and bring in Wirtz who's going to cost 120 million quid, and bring in a right back who's going to cost 60 million quid, and bring in an all-round midfielder who might cost 80 million quid, and bring in goalkeepers who are going to cost 60 million quid. Can't do all that in one window. It's not possible. It's not feasible. It's not realistic. Do we have any questions? I like to think that's been a productive, useful, helpful video. Again, the purpose of this video wasn't really to go through who should we sign at. I have touched on that, but I don't want to get bogged down too much in that. But let me know, are there any other questions? It is what's important, Bree, but we can increase it to 500 million net if we'd like to, but again, it's still going to be the same conversation, RE gross. I tried to make it gross so we wouldn't have that debate. I think we should go for Wharton, says Foley. He's played 10 and can operate in the 6 and 8. 21 years old, excellent prem tested, progressive passer. I'm a big fan of Wharton, in fairness. We need a motivated keeper. Edison's good, but he's not hungry and he wants to leave. He wants to leave. That's the key, isn't it? Yeah, he'll be more than that, definitely. All round is more important than attacking, says Tahi. Again, I think we're splitting hairs, but I would personally agree with that, but there we go. Frimpong is homegrown for right back. He's not a right back. Mine has 2 injury. He's also, here's the thing, he's not a young goalkeeper. I think he's 28. If we want a goalkeeper more for the future, he's not young anymore. I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure he's not young though. Let's have a look. See, I think he's been around a lot longer than people give him credit for. Sorry, he's 29. He's going to be 30 in the summer. I thought he was more like 28. He's going to be 30 in July. Yeah, he's what, a couple years younger than Edison. That's not that's not really a replacement, to be honest. That's like a stopgap. We need to bring in the keeper who's like less than 25, realistically. Chevalier. We don't want my Nan. We don't want Nana Nobbins in goal. You watched a full rebuild video and no mention of Bruno G. Look, I'm moving on. I've moved on from Bruno G. Don't go back to your exes. He's won a trophy with Newcastle now. I'd be staggered if you can get even Isak, unless like a Liverpool come in for him with big money. I don't think you're going to get any of those Newcastle players out. There is clearly a very strong connection there. We need left fullback. I don't want to agree because we touched on it earlier. We've got Gvardiol, the starting left back. We've got Nico O'Reilly, the backup left back. Akanji can play there. And if we get Cambiasso, he can play there as well. So I don't agree. I think we need a right back who can play left back or just a versatile fullback, if you get me. Chill, Rio Mario, chill. Very important, Mr. Brown. Look, if you want to try to attract star players, you can forget it without Champions League football. The players you want to bring in anyway. Yeah, easy, Dave. He is going for probably more than Cambiasso money. Probably more. Brighton do not need to sell. They are very strong negotiators. They hold all the cards. They hold all the cards. How much did Cambiasso go for? Was it 120 million? I think Balaba's arguably got an even higher ceiling than him. Yeah, you're looking at a fee of over 100 million quid, I think, quite easily. 30 is 25 in goalkeeper years. Probably, yeah, probably, mate. What if we buy Newcastle? Yeah, fairs. Donnarumma is only 26. The issue with Donnarumma is he's shit. Bob Movies, thank you for subscribing, matey. Big up to you. What did I say? Did I not say Caicedo? You know what I mean? Caicedo was sold by Chelsea, by Brighton to Chelsea for 125 million, was it? I believe it's going to cost more, probably, or there or thereabouts. Verts type players ain't coming to play against Ruben Kazan away, yeah. No, I don't want to sell these players. These are the players who I think will be sold or will be loaned out or will not be in the first team next season. So Mukasa, I don't think he'll be in the first team. That doesn't mean sell him or loan him. That means that I don't think he's going to get 5 Premier League starts. That's all. Yeah, Caicedo would have been perfect. Honestly, he would have been perfect. Yeah, I've seen his name a lot. Maybe it doesn't change the ultimate fact that it's still going to be like 300. We've still agreed it's 300 million gross. Unless we are adding another 100 to 200 million gross, that's not going to change anything. I'm afraid. That's why we had the gross conversation. It'll be the same end. It'll be the same ending. We're traversing a different road, which ends up at the same point. I think he will. Now, whether you think he's worth that much is irrelevant. The question is, how much will Brighton sell him for? Because Brighton don't need to sell. They value him very highly. They'll probably value him the same amount as Caicedo. So he's going to cost about that much. Whether you think he's worth that much isn't relevant. It's how much Brighton think he is worth and how much they value him at. And also the premium of they don't need to sell him, they don't want to sell him. You've got to always pay extra in that sense. I think I want to wrap up the stream there. I have been live for over 90 minutes and LB is live, so I would like to redirect to him. Any final questions or final thoughts before we move on, ladies and gentlemen? I think we've had a very good stream there. It'll come when it'll be ready when it's... Sorry, it'll be uploaded when it's uploaded. I think we've had a very good stream there. Hopefully we can now see the work that needs to be done. Realistically, what work can be done, given the... Who's my least favorite player? My least favorite player in each category? I don't know. And yeah, minimum goalkeeper, backup goalkeeper, right back, all-round midfielder. And if you don't think Echeverry is going to be ready to start, then we also need that attacking midfielder as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Magil says we need a good left winger who can finish and create decent chances for Haaland. Yeah. Guys, Echeverry and Haste videos will come out when they come out. Don't worry about it. A watched kettle never boils. There's no rush. There is no urgency. Pep's got no urgency to start them consistently or get them on the bench at all. I've got no rush, therefore, in getting the videos out. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Go watch my Manchester Derby analysis video because it's very good and I outline why City were bad in the Derby. Yeah, I outline why City are bad in the Derby, offensively and defensively. It might not be for the reasons you think. There's more at play. So make sure to go give that video a watch thereafter. Hey, Musty, keep watching, mate. As I said, I'm going to redirect you to LB now. I really hope you guys enjoyed the show. I like to think there was a lot of value in this stream. We did need to make it after the incomings. Feel free to take screenshots. Show your friends. We're nearly at 23,000 subscribers, which is very lovely. I have been slacking, so we have not been growing as much as I would have liked to have seen, but that is totally my bad. And let's redirect to LB. What's the title of his stream? LB and Daps. Lovely. How Man City move forward. There we go. Oh, maybe I could... Should I have done this? I probably should have done that, shouldn't I? Maybe I can do that next time. Or I could do it now. Could I do it now quickly? Maybe. Maybe. Right. Let's maybe do that. Okay. I'm going to make a starting 11, which has got all the stars in. And has got some of the new signings in. And has maybe got some of these squad options as well. Okay, so let's do that. So I need to incorporate all the stars, incorporate as many new signings as I can, and maybe a couple of squad options just to see what the state of play is. Right, let's get rid of all the bins. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. I apologize. I apologize. You deserve better. Let's just move these here for now, and then we'll wrap up the show. So again, the parameters are include all the stars, include the new signings, include squad options where necessary. Shall I use Pep's 4-3-3 that we did? Did you see my left centre back question? No, what was it, Maxwell? What was it? There's a new goalkeeper obviously there. That's fine. Let's just put these players here. Let's put the stars in for now. Haaland there. I haven't quite figured out Marmoush and Foden. Obviously Diaz there. Rodri there. Gvardiol there. Hopefully that's some sort of Cambiasso player there. Maybe we could pop Kusanov in there. Do we think he's probably the best centre-back option there if I'm wanting to play Gvardiol out on the left? Dean, thank you very much. Rodri, yes. As I say, should we play 4-3-3? Or what? What I would like to do, if we're saying Marmoush is a star, the best way to use Marmoush is to push Gvardiol up front, to be fair. So he could technically work out nominally. Should we go off ball? He could technically work out nominally at the left wing. That would work. I guess. Question mark. Or do you do that? Do you push him up there? I don't know. One of these doesn't get to play unless I pop Foden there, in fairness. Should we be brave and do that? Doesn't really work, does it? If I'm saying false wingers, then we probably do that. Do we? No, don't like that. I want Savio to start, I'll be honest. What would it be in possession? Like that. This sort of thing, Cambiasso pushing up. Or could it be this? Gvardiol going there. Rodri there. Cambiasso inverting into the centre. Oh, hello! Guys. I may have cooked. Can't lie. Cambiasso inverting into the midfield. 3-2 base. Give me that treble winning system. I got double tens. Foden, and if you want it to be Wirtz, it can be him. Wirtz plays better at right central midfield anyway. That's fine. Gvardiol providing overlaps for Marmoush to come into the centre and link up with Haaland. Savio given the freedom of that right wing. Balls in behind by Wirtz. Pocket play into Foden. Oh! Guys. We made Gvardiol making these runs. Lads. We've done it. This is my favourite system. 3-2. The one that won the treble is my favourite, obviously. We may have cooked. We may have cooked. That doesn't mean it has to be the team every single time. No, this is in possession, Itahi. That's fine. He's good at defending on the counter. Bosh. Why is Foden in the position that won us the league last season? Great question. Smyan, that is a weakness that I'm willing to accept. If we are willing to have a midfield of Kovacic, Gundogan, and Bernardo Silva, then there is no such thing as a frailer midfield, I'm afraid to say. You know? So this would work based on that. If we're saying, if Pep's thought is the midfield against United would work, then this would work as well. Bosh. Look at that. Yeah, that's actually beautiful. Yeah, can't lie. Yeah. Anyway, guys, that works off ball. It works on ball. It's a wonderful time. It incorporates a lot of those new signings. And there is now, what? No, it wasn't YK. Recommend go watching my video to educate yourself on where the actual position was. Because you are, say it with me, guys, objectively incorrect. Go watch my video to get educated on that, though. This is going to take you to LB's stream. Hashtag Nobbins raid. You know the drill, guys. Until then, have a lovely rest of your evening, and I will be back. Should I do an Arsenal Real Madrid watch along tonight? I might do an Arsenal Real Madrid watch along tonight. Stay tuned for that. Until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay here. It's going to take you to LB's stream right now. Goodbye, guys.